of which the United Nations is the outstanding but far from the only example. Now, here are the aims for the United States. 1, greatly expanded government spending for every conceivable means of getting rid of ever larger sums of American money as wastefully as possible. 2, higher and then much higher taxes. 3, an increasingly unbalanced budget despite the higher taxes. 4, wild inflation of our currency. 5, government controls of prices, wages, and materials, supposedly to combat inflation. 6, greatly increased socialistic controls over every operation of our economy and every activity of our daily lives. This is to be accompanied naturally and automatically by a correspondingly huge increase in the size of our bureaucracy and in both the cost and reach of our domestic government. 7, far more centralization of power in Washington and the practical elimination of our state lines. There is a many-faceted drive at work to have our state lines eventually mean no more within the nation than our county lines do now within the states. 8, the steady advance of federal aid to and control over our educational system, leading to complete federalization of our public education. 9, a constant hammering into the American consciousness of the horror of modern warfare, the beauties and the absolute necessity of peace, peace always on communist terms, of course. And 10, the consequent willingness of the American people to allow the steps of appeasement by our government which amount to a piecemeal surrender of the rest of the free world and of the United States itself.
Yep, caught me off guard there. Well, as sticking with the theme of the program, I'm not going to play any commercials on this program because this is not a day for commercials. Despite what surrounding businesses around your hometown may be telling you, this is not a day for commercials, so I won't be playing any. This is a program dedicated to you and to me, to the American people, to our freedoms and liberties. Because this end-time prophecy, wars and rumors of wars, is, in the last 100 years, become absolutely unprecedented. There's always been catastrophes in the world, but never before has there been so many, so frequently, that are all accompanied by more end-time prophecies: earthquakes, tsunamis, hurricanes, famine, disease, war. Are we simply experiencing the national or natural order of things? Or are these signs that we see all around us warnings of the end times? Act 24:7, and ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars, for nation shall rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. No period has witnessed the escalation of war like the 20th century. You know, the Red Cross estimated that over 156 million people have been killed in wars in the 20th century alone. 156 million people. I have got lists as long as my arm of the non-stop, constant war that has been going on in the 20th century. No period has witnessed the escalation of wars like the 20th century. And since World War II, the war that was supposed to make the world safe for democracy, there's been a lot of major wars, hundreds of rebellions and revolutions. The death toll in conflicts since the end of World War II has topped 23 million. 23 million. You know, in November of '89, when they took down the Berlin Wall, that symbolized the end of the Cold War between the superpowers. But instead of the expected peace, more wars and rumors of wars raged all over the planet. In 1993, a record 29 major wars had been fought since 1993. Nation rising against nation, kingdom against kingdom. Let me make something clear. Most people translate this nation against nation, rising against nation, and kingdom against kingdom as an ethnic group against an ethnic group. Because the original word that's used in the original language was ethnos, which means culture against culture, ethnic group against ethnic group. However, how do you translate that into kingdom against kingdom? Since when is an ethnic group a kingdom? An ethnic group is not a kingdom. Instead, if we put it into context with the way that the Bible uses these words, nation against nation and kingdom against kingdom, you'll find that a nation and a kingdom are two very different things. A nation are the people. A kingdom is the government. So when it says nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom, is this nation against nation, people against people, and kingdom against kingdom, government against government? You know, we see that today. We see governments rising against other governments. Let me give you an example of that. The Iranian people, most of them, do not approve of their government. And they don't like when Ahmadinejad comes out and starts saying he's going to wipe Israel off the earth and taunts America to come in and do whatever they want to do. The Iranian people are saying, hey, shut up. We don't want to do that. Our government's saying, hey, don't threaten us or we'll come in there and we'll stomp you. We'll turn the sand to glass. American people are saying, hey, shut up. We don't want to do that. Instead, this is government against government, kingdom against kingdom, not nation against nation necessarily. Yeah, there are radicals in Iran that will stand behind their president and say he's doing the right thing. We have the same kind of loony bins here who are standing behind Obama. They're making songs about him, falling at his feet. Obama, Obama, Obama. I mean, we have the same kind of fruits and nuts that they do. These kind of fruits and nuts exist in every country. But we, as an American people, as a general populace, we don't want to be the policemen of the world and go around and stomp everybody. On the other hand, we don't want the kingdom of Iran to have nuclear weapons either. What do? We stand back and we say, all right, kingdom of America, government of America, you deal with the kingdom of Iran, the government of Iran. Is that the right thing to do? We've become numb to the news and the atrocities and tortures, the mass rape and murder, the savagery. We've become numb to that. The 20th century was the bloodiest, costliest century of warfare in human history. 2 world wars, a large number of major revolutions, along with very significant social, political, economic upheavals from 1901 to 2000. This has been historical movements in revolutions and bloody conflicts. Think about this. What happened in Somalia with the Mad Mullah Jihad of 1899 to 1905? Somalia tribesmen, led by religious leader Mohammed Ibn Hassan, waged a desert guerrilla war against Britain. They offered him territory in Italy in exchange for peace. What about Rwanda here 20 years ago? What happened in Rwanda? When they went in there and literally slaughtered 800,000 people with machetes. They didn't go in there and shoot the place up. They hacked these people to death with machetes. 800,000 people with machetes. Now, what's significant about that? You know, it's one thing for an army to go against an army, lob missiles into a place where you never see the people. You lob mortars. You fire your weapon off, 1,000 yards in the distance. And you know that people are dying, but you're not looking them in the face. To hack somebody up with a machete, you have to be right in front of them. You have to endure their screams. You have to look into their face while you take your machete and literally hack these people to death. And it's not just one swipe. There's whack, 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 whack. They're cutting these people into pieces. 800,000 of them. How incredibly brutal is that? And it's not an isolated incident. That's what's really scary about this. It's not an isolated incident. What about the Ottoman War, 1911 to 1912? The First Balkan War, 1912 to 13. The Second Balkan War in 1913. You know, they say that the first official World War I, 1914 to 1918, the first official World War known as the Great War, also as the World War, was one of the worst. What about our Civil War? You know, there's a long list of these world wars. So, you know, the World War II, 1939 to 1945. Our Second World War. It was supposed to be the war to end all wars. You know what? They say that these kind of catastrophic wars are decreasing. The World War I and World War II style magnitude of wars are on the decrease. Well, while the large, giant world wars are on the decrease, the smaller wars are on the increase. Now, they say that we're not having these big wars anymore because of globalization. Globalization. It's because countries are becoming more dependent on each other. You don't want to kill your customers. That's basically what they're saying. We're not having these huge wars because you don't kill your customers. Just like everyone says that China's going to try to cash in on how much we owe them. They're not going to do that. We're their biggest customer. They depend on us for their economy. If they crash us, they crash. So that's not going to happen. They're not going to go to war with us. You don't beat up your best customer. Globalization. And it just so happens, globalization is also an end-time prophecy. You know, there were a lot of smaller wars from the 50s right up through now. Some they didn't like to call a war. You know, the French-Indonesian War, they didn't like to call it a war. The Vietnam War, the Laos War, the first Kashmir War. You know, Kashmir, for those of you that don't know, Kashmir has always been a really tickling point between India and China, because Kashmir is a disputed land. Each one says that they possess Kashmir. Well, why is that? Kashmir is not strategic necessarily. I mean, it is somewhat because of its location, but, you know, for these people to fight about this as much as they do is just incredible. Well, what happened starting in 1917 with the Balfour Declaration? That's when, after the Ottoman War, Britain was given control over the land that's now called Israel. including the Golan Heights,